very familiar story.
We're just going to take a break from Deborah explaining all about her exciting new podcast to these images of Greta Thunberg, who is arriving in Paris. Looks like she's going to speak to the media. Let's have a listen.
Greta, would you tell us how Natasha Butler from Al Jazeera, tell us what it was like on the boat? And how was it the last few hours?
We were on international waters. We were illegally attacked and kidnapped by Israel and taken against our will to Israel, where we were detained, and then some of us deported. Some are still there. There are very big uncertainties because it was quite chaotic and uncertain, so I don't really know what's going on. I haven't had a phone for many days. And
what were the conditions for you over the last few hours?
They were absolutely nothing compared to what people are going through in Palestine, especially Gaza right now. And this is yet another international a violation of international, countless of such, especially towards Palestinians, that Israel are committing by blocking and preventing humanitarian aid from entering Gaza. That is illegal.
How did the Israelis treat you? We saw them giving out sandwiches on their social media. How did it?
Yeah, they probably have posted lots of PR stunt videos. As I said, I have not seen anything, but they did an illegal act by kidnapping us on international waters and against our will, bringing us to Israel, keeping us in the bottom of the boat, not letting us getting out, and so on. But that is not the real story here. The real story is that there is a genocide going on in Gaza and a systematic starvation following the siege and blockade now, which is leading to food, medicine, water that are desperately needed to get into Gaza is prevented from doing so. But of course there are many attempts like this mission, both by sea and land, to break that siege and open up a humanitarian corridor.
Could I ask you, did you said you had no contact at all with any of your other colleagues from the boat when you were detained? Is that what you said?
No, that's not what I said. I was just mainly speaking. I don't really know what's going on because
you don't know what's going on with the others.
Are you worried about the
I wasn't
others?
able to say goodbye.
Are you worried about the others, that they might be detained for any length of time?
Yeah, I'm very worried about them. We heard many different messages pointing towards that they would not make it easy. And there were troubles with being able to see lawyers. So I am very much calling for their immediate release and calling for everyone who can to mobilize to their governments and other ways to demand their immediate release. And of course to demand not only humanitarian aid being let into Gaza, but also a ceasefire, but most importantly an end to the occupation and an end to the systemic oppression and violence that Palestinians are facing on an everyday basis.
Are you disappointed you didn't manage to break the blockade?
I don't know if disappointed is the right word. This is a continued violation of international law and war crimes that Israel are systematically committing against Palestinians by not letting aid come in, by starving people and mass slaughtering in every possible way. During a live stream, full-blown genocide that the world is watching.
How do you feel about the European governments and their position and what they're doing or not doing?
Yeah, both in our case, their silence was complicity with Israel's illegal actions, but most importantly, their complicity in the genocide that's going on now by sending aid, by sending military and financial support to Israel. They are also part of the killings of Palestinians.
There's a conference coming up at the UN. France is thinking of recognizing the state of Palestine.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
It's the very, very bare minimum. Of course, welcome, but we need so much more than that. When there's even a risk of genocide happening, we have a duty to prevent that from happening. And right now we are so far gone beyond that stage. It is. There are no words to describe the betrayal that is happening every day by our own governments.
You were offered the choice to return straight away, or for leaving Israel. Can you tell us you chose to leave Israel straight away. We've been told that people were forced to sign papers in which they recognized they'd entered the country illegally. Did that happen for you?
I did not recognize that I entered the country legally. I made it very clear in my testimony that we were kidnapped on international waters and brought there against our own will into Israel.
What did Israeli authorities say to you? What did Israeli authorities say were the reasons for your detention and arrest?
Many different things.
Did you have to sign any papers before leaving Israel?
Well, depends on what you're referring to.
There were talks about some of your colleagues that had to sign papers that they did not
Paper where you
return to
recognized
Israel
what
for
you did was
100 years.
illegal.
Yeah, I did not sign that. Why would I?
What do you think you achieved from your mission?
This was a mission of trying to, once again, the Freedom Flotilla coalition has been continuously sending boats aiming to break the siege and open up a humanitarian corridor since 2008. And this was one of those missions. And right now, more important than ever, because of the siege and because of the systematic starvation of over 2 million people and the full-blown live-stream genocide. And this was a mission of attempting to once again bring aid to Gaza, which is desperately needed, but also to send solidarity and say that we see you, we see what is happening, and we cannot accept just witnessing all this and doing nothing. That can never be an option. I'm terrified at seeing how this extremely deadly passivity and silence is all over the world, leading to so many deaths.
Your opponents and many in Israel accuse you of moral grandstanding.
Could you elaborate?
That you're doing this for the cameras, the effect.
Well, that is very ironic coming from them, since you just described them doing the PR stunt of them handing out sandwiches or whatever. But this is our last boat that we were attempting to go on this mission with a month ago. Was a much larger boat with, of course, could fill much more aid. That was bombed twice, and all the evidence strongly points towards Israel. So we made this trip with a smaller boat and a smaller crew because that's all that we had, because they bombed the last boat. And as I said, this is about bringing as much humanitarian aid as we possibly could, while also sending a message of solidarity and hope, telling Palestinians that we stand behind you in this struggle, and we are joining the global uprising of people demanding an end to the oppression and decolonization, not just in the metaphor. So that's...
But the aid you agreed was symbolic, it was tiny.
Huh?
The aid you agreed was symbolic.
As I said, the other boat was bombed.
Greta, what are you planning to do in days and weeks to come?
As you can see, I'm desperately in need of a shower and sleep. But what is certain is that we will not stop. We are going to continue to try to do everything we can, because that is the promise that we have given to Palestinians, that we are going to try every single day, in every way that we can, keep trying to demand an end to the atrocities that Israel is doing.
Will you try to break the blockade in some way again, by boat or another method?
There will be a march to Gaza happening in the coming week, I think, of people trying to come to the Rafah border, which is yet another attempt to break the siege. So this is definitely not the end. This is going to continue, of course.
Do you have some news of the other person who were on the boat?
I don't, which is very worrying, because people were not being treated well. I was not able to say goodbye to people, and I don't know what's happening, and there were many issues.
When you say they're not treated well, what do you mean?
Well,
Could you elaborate for us?
obviously in a very dehumanizing way. But of course, I have to stress nothing compared to what Palestinians are going through.
But still, can you give us some, what happened to you when you arrived in Ashdod port? I mean, were you taken off the boat? Was there any violence? Were you detained? How? Where?
No, I prefer not to go into details. about that. We arrived there, we were detained, and then we were, yeah.
You know, I don't know if you know, but Donald Trump commented about you being stopped in Ashdod. He said, you're an angry young woman who needs anger management. What would you respond? How do you feel?
What did he say? I have no connection to anything, so I don't know what's happening.
Basically, he said that, he said he was reacting to what has been said about Israel capturing you. He said, that this is not, they've not been kidnapped. Israel doesn't need that right now. And they said, Greta Thunberg is, I quote, a young angry woman. She needs anger management sessions.
Well, I think the world needs a lot of more young angry women, to be honest, especially with everything going on right now. That's the thing we need most of.
When you set out, what did you gauge your success rate would be?
Sorry?
Was it a success? Do you feel this was a success?
What did you gauge your success would be in achieving what you wanted to achieve?
We were very well aware of the risks of going on this mission, and as I said before, there has been many previous flotillas on similar missions that have been either attacked, intercepted, or actually reaching Gaza. So, of course, the aim was to get to Gaza and to be able to distribute the humanitarian aid. We were 12 peaceful volunteers sailing on a civilian ship carrying humanitarian aid on international waters. We did not break laws. We did nothing wrong. The point is that whatever the odds are, we have to keep trying, because right now, when you look at the state of the world, everything feels meaningless. But unless you try to do everything you can, that's when we lose our hope. No.
Just to understand the context, why are you free today and your colleagues still detained directly?
That's a bit unclear. I and some others signed saying that we wanted to go back as soon as we could, not accepting that we entered the country illegally. And some people did not sign that. We were held in also separate places for many amounts of time, so it's a bit unclear. And as I said, I haven't had contact. I wasn't able to talk or say goodbye. But I do know that there were major issues with people actually getting to talk to lawyers.
Were you interrogated?
Yeah.
Why did you choose to come back?
Huh?
Why did you choose to come back?
Why would I want to stay in Israeli prison like more than necessary?
Why do you think so many countries, governments around the world are just ignoring what is happening in Gaza?
Because of racism, that's the simple answer, I would say. Racism and basically desperately trying to defend a destructive, deadly system that systematically puts short-term economic profit and to maximize geopolitical power over the well-being of humans and the planet. And right now it's very, very difficult to morally defend that. It is impossible, but still they are desperately trying, which is... Absurd is not the word, but there are no words to describe it. Vi kan ta på svenska.
Just 10 seconds.
Ja, hej.
Kan du göra en snabb utvärdering av den här
En snabb
stationen?
utvärdering. Ja, det som hände var att vi seglade med humanitär nödhjälp på internationellt vatten där vi blev
well, we'll just step away from Greta Thunberg as she stops talking in English there. She's given her reaction to what's happened over the last few days. She says that they were in international waters, they were illegally attacked and kidnapped. She accused Israel of war crimes again by not letting aid into Gaza. She said it is full-blown genocide that the world is watching. Their mission was to try to break the siege and open a humanitarian corridor. Of course, they didn't succeed in doing that. I should add that Israel denies the charges that she is putting to them.